Sandra. Welcome to Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, day 15. Thank you for joining me once again on this wonderful month where we celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. Tonight I've got a different nightshirt on, a different Eeyore one. I think this is a very asexual one. Look, they're hugging like they're bestest ever friends. I love Eeyore stuff. They're so cute. So I've got 4 different perspectives from my book about when they discovered they were asexual and how they discovered they're asexual. So I'm going to start with Adair Gearhart's story. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. When did you first discover you were asexual? I was 19. And how did you discover you were asexual? I was attending an LGBTQA group with another member when another member mentioned they were asexual. I asked them about it and what it meant. They explained it to me and all sorts of bells and whistles went off in my head. I had previously thought that maybe I was just gay, but since I hadn't come out yet, I was still trying to pretend to be heterosexual. I thought I just wasn't attracted to the gender I was forcing myself to have sex with, and my lack of experience with other genders was the explanation for my lack of desire. And they identify themselves as a panromantic asexual. So Jamie James's story. Jamie James discovered they were asexual at 11 years of age. How did you discover you were asexual? Hi Martin, nice to see you. This is Jamie James' story. I saw arguments between my mum, stepdad and brother and girlfriend who wanted a relationship, and I saw people having sex always argued. I didn't want that, so I was told I wasn't normal. Sappho's story. I was 13 years old when I first heard of asexuality, but it has taken me until very recently, the last 6 months or so, to really accept myself as asexual. And how did Sappho discover they were asexual? I was at a sleepover with my 2 best friends. They're both gay trans men, but at the time we were all young and questioning. We turned off the lights and sat talking in the pitch black. We always found it easier to talk about the more taboo topics that way, and we were talking about crushes. When it was my turn to spill the beans about my angsty teenage heartache, they were both shocked to hear that I'd never fancied anyone. One of them told me I might be asexual. I didn't even know what it meant at the time, but I looked it up and eventually decided it was a description that fitted me. Oh, and by the way, Martin has just tuned in. It's his 3.5-year anniversary of finding out he's asexual. So, hi to Martin. Congratulations to you. And this is Cassidy's story. So, Cassidy found out they were asexual around November 2015 when they were 28 years old. And how did they discover it? Woohoo to you! My husband and I had agreed to see other people, and I was on OkCupid and found a girl whose profile I liked, and she identified as a grey ace. And I did some Googling and thought, holy shit, that's me. So, and Cassidy identifies as a polybiromantic grey ace. I'm a cis woman, I'm sex positive and love physical affection. I think genitals are somewhere between silly and gross. I don't really enjoy touching them, but will willingly to please my partner. And that's another thing. The asexual spectrum is so diverse. You know, some asexuals are sex repulsed, some asexuals are touch averse, some asexuals will have sex to please their partner, and other asexuals just won't have anything to do with sex whatsoever. So the asexual spectrum is huge, vast and wide. So asexuals lack the sexual attraction, but there are some people on the asexual spectrum who identify as grey asexual. They're not a pure asexual in the sense they never find anyone sexually attractive, but they're kind of stuck in between being asexual and being sexual, but they're not sexual enough to be fully sexual, if you understand what I mean. So a grey asexual is someone who experiences sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or who experiences it but not to want to act on it. However, I'm a heteromantic asexual and I have great areas of sexual behavior despite lacking sexual attraction, and I never have sexual attraction, so I kind of feel I don't quite fit into the normal hetero romantic definition, as it were. So I call myself having great areas, but I am not a textbook grey asexual. I don't experience sexual attraction whatsoever. But I just think I have these grey areas, and I feel more comfortable personally saying I've got some grey areas than not. Because when I go on asexual dating sites, I think it's unfair to the romantic guys who basically don't want much physical intimacy at all. They might just want a little bit of kissing and that's it. I just feel like, I just feel that it's not fair on them. But at the same time, there are some people who identify as heteromantic who do not say they've got great areas, and they've got very great areas. Like one guy I met, he likes completely stripping down to almost having sex, but not doing the penetration thing. But, and that is far too sexual for me. So, one of the things that crops up is time and time again is why is it so hard to find an asexual relationship, or it is so hard to find one. And it's purely for the simple fact that we're all so very different in our likes, wants, needs, and dislikes. And when sex is not the focus of the relationship, because we're not that way inclined, we look at all the other things. We look at how much we've got in common with each other or not, if we've got shared interests and hobbies or not. And our focus is very much on other things and having things in common. Whereas with the sort of sexual world as it is, they're kind of more focused on the sexual intercourse being the be all and end alls to solve all your problems and keep you binded together, if you know what I mean. Asexual relationships don't tend to work like that as a whole. They tend to work on unique commonalities. You need shared interests because there's nothing to bind you other than the emotional connection, and the emotional connection is fantastic, but sometimes it's not enough in an asexual relationship because we can get bored more easily, I think, in certain circumstances, because we're not focused on sex. We kind of have our own projects and our own lives going on, I think, and we're more intense in that way. So when there's other, when we've got our projects and stuff, we really need someone that will enhance our life and enhance our projects and the things that we like to work on, whilst we're not having all this sex. So we look at things in a really different point of view. And I was being interviewed for a podcast this morning, a new asexuality podcast, and I had an absolutely amazing interview. It went on for over 2 hours. It's really, really good. And we were talking about a lot of taboo topics, but we're telling it like it is and breaking down a lot of those stereotypes and putting the world to rights as it was. And I really, really enjoyed it. When it's out, I'll have to do a blog post or something about it to link to it. So it'll be a really good discussion. And I really think it's important, to know that asexual, the person who interviewed me is aromantic asexual, otherwise known as aromantic. I've always said aromantic on this channel, so I feel comfortable with saying that rather than aromantic. But possibly because I'm a romantic person. But so the guy who interviewed me is aromantic, and he was asking me all these questions, and we were talking about heteronormativity, what people usually have in a normal hetero sort of sexual relationship, and he because he's aromantic as well, it made it harder for him to understand romantic relationships and relationships in general, and this obsession that a lot of sexuals have got with sex and around relationships. Now, not every sexual person is obsessed by sex, but it does feature in their life as a necessity in a relationship usually. And I was trying to describe it as a daisy, it's like the bit in the middle of the daisy, the yellow bit is sort of its core central to who they are, sexual attraction. It's kind of like a base instinct going back to cavemen years. In general, this is very generalizing, okay? I realize not everyone's like this. I really do. I've known people, and I've got a friend who's not that sexual despite being sexual, if you know what I mean. They're not talking about girls, they're not obsessed with sex at all. They hardly mention it at all, ever. Well, I don't think they have to me. I probably talk about more to do with guys than they do about girls ever. So yeah, I think they act a bit more like they're asexual than I do sometimes, in the sense that they're not even talking about being attracted at all, which is kind of a bit bizarre for me. But there you go. But yeah, I'm just saying that, you know, a lot of the time, a sexual attraction for heterosexuals, for example, or for sexuals in general, is a fundamental core of who they are in their being. It's like part of their makeup. Do you see what I mean? They can't help it, just like we can't help being asexual. It's just the way things are. But, you know, I was also talking about romantic relationships. It's really hard when you're a romantic person, because you really crave that romance. You crave that holding hands, that kissing and the cuddling. And I think if you're aromantic in general, you know, you don't get romantic feelings. You don't need all that stuff in your life. But some aromantic people, they still want relationships. It's a fallacy to think that all aromantics don't want to be in a relationship. They just want their friends. That's not actually true. I know an aromantic person that used to be in a relationship, and they want to be in a relationship. They're still on asexual dating sites. And my friend who I met in London, he's on the aromantic spectrum, but he's a demi-romantic now. So that means he can only be romantic with someone he's formed a strong emotional bond with. So that some people that are demi-romantics, you know, that can be like 1 or 2 years before they ever feel that way about romance. But he is actually quite a romantic person in and of himself in some of the things he says, but he just doesn't realise. I think aromantics can be romantic. They just don't realise, because they don't think about it like that. Again, it's a different mindset. Sort of when you're in sexual mindset, it's a different mindset to when you're in an asexual mindset. It's a different mindset to when you're in an aromantic asexual mindset. There's completely different mindsets and different ways of doing and being, if you know what I mean. So I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies between relationships and finding the ideal partner and things like that. So yeah, it can be really hard, you know. I mean, a thing that's hard with asexual dating as well is people tend to like talk to you for a little bit, then they just disappear, and it's like, well, were you really ever interested in me? What's the point in wasting my time? If you're not interested in me, don't bother speaking to me. I'm quite happy if you don't speak to me. If you're not interested in me, don't waste my time. Do you see what I mean? Having said that, obviously I have asexual friends. That's different. I love talking to asexual guys as friends. You know, I love having asexual friends. So I don't want to not talk to them. I'm talking about the guys that come in and go, oh, you're really good looking, I really like you, and then you don't hear from them again. You know what I'm talking about. If you're romantic into asexual dating, you know the drill. It's kind of sad, really, but not everyone's like that. You know, because my asexual friend who went to all the meetups and then eventually met the love of his life, he's totally happy. And because I know that real life love story, this true asexual romance, you know, no sex involved whatsoever. My friend's not like that. He's genuinely asexual guy, you know, and his girlfriend, it seems so beautiful for him. They're so much in love, and it just means that there is hope for us. There are people out there that genuinely want a serious and committed relationship. But what you have to do is, if you're into a really serious and committed relationship, you've got to find that other person that's like that. You can't find someone that's not. Do you see what I mean? It's not going to work. They've got to be as committed, really, as you are. Otherwise, it's just going to be flouncing around, and people are just going to have misunderstandings and miscommunications. It's not going to work. I think there's a lot of asexuals that want a relationship, but I think there's fewer asexuals that genuinely will take that action and be serious about it. Like, okay, in my life now, I really want a relationship, so I am going to seek that out. I'm going to put out all the stops. I'm going to go on asexual dating sites. I'm going to approach people. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to find someone that I really get on well with, that I can, you know, have this emotional connection with, that's really special, and that, you know, I just feel really comfortable around them. And that's the type of person you want to be looking for, someone who makes you feel comfortable. I mean, the thing is a lot of the time it's your asexual friends, right? But the majority of time in relationships, I mean, I'm a very analytical person, right? And the majority of times you end up being in a relationship with one of your friends in the future, which is why I've got such an analytical mind. I'm like, which one of my friends am I going to end up with then? You know, it's not necessarily true, but you really have to be good friends with them first, because otherwise you've got no foundation for trust. And if you don't have trust, you may as well give up before you've even begun. Do you see what I mean? I know a person who's not asexual, and they were friends, just friends with their their now wife for 7 or 8 years, I think it was, before they got together. And they said all of a sudden they just wanted to be in a relationship together, and that was it. And they got married and then had a kid, and it just all went boom for them all of a sudden. But they were just friends for like 7 or 8 years. It's an incredible story, you know. And I do know that a lot of relationships are based on friendships. I mean, I don't have any friends from the past that are asexual. I find that a lot of people I know, they've got people in their past, like at school or college or uni, and they're like, meet up with them again by accident, some fake chance, and it's like, oh, yeah, I always did like you. One of them usually liked the other person, didn't say, or both of them liked each other. And it's like, wow, yeah, I really liked you, now we're together after all these years. But my life doesn't work like that. I haven't got any friends in the past that are asexual, and I didn't really have many friends at school. Do you see what I mean? So, I mean, there was one guy who I knew from school, and sadly, he's not asexual. He has a girlfriend, was engaged, and then was chatting me up on Facebook saying, I'll come and see you. And, like, we did get on really well at school. Like, he fancied me, he said, at school, which I didn't know, but it seems like he fancied everyone, because I spoke to one of my other best friends who used to go to the same school as us, and he'd messaged her as well. So it wasn't like I was anything special. It was just a case of, I think he's in need of sex. Do you see what I mean? And he thought the familiarity of me and my other friend would be good for him, I think. But why is he doing that? Was engaged anyway. It's really bad. I mean, this happened quite a long time ago, but you get my point. So what I'm saying is you know, it's really difficult to get a balance, because you kind of need someone in a relationship who's like your bestest ever friend, probably going to be one of your friends that you already know. But if you don't have that, and you have someone new come into your life, you've got to make them, you know, you've got to, well, I say make them your best friend. If they can't be your best friend, then they shouldn't be in a relationship with you. But it's kind of difficult when you're getting to know someone, because it's like you're trying to know them from scratch. It's really, really hard. I find that really so difficult. So like, there was 2 guys I was talking to last night, which hasn't happened for a while. 2 foreign asexual guys. One's on Facebook, lives in the UK, and one that's foreign and lives in another country. The one who lived in another country turned around and said to me, I said, are you happy in your home? Would you stay there? Because he approached me and said he loved my profile, which is really nice for me. Because I don't usually get that. It's usually me doing a lot of the approaching, but not so much. Well, that wasn't the case in this case. He just messaged me out blue on ASAP, and you know, and he was really interested in talking to me. He was research. He was looking at my blog and stuff. I don't think we're at that point where we can look back at school and find asexual people. I imagine you might be lucky and find one school. No, I don't think we can look back and find asexual people, Martin, either from our past school. I mean, there might be someone who was, but you know, I don't think we can. But it might not be someone who's at school. But that's what I'm kind of saying with asexuality. It's different. You know, we haven't usually got someone in our past that happens to be asexual, which is kind of like the missing cog, I think, sometimes, because I think a lot of people, they kind of see someone in the past. But I think with us it is different, because it's like we're not likely to bump into an asexual in the supermarket either, is it? It's not going to happen. So when they say, oh, wait, because you know, wait for this perfect person to come into your life, or wait for this person to turn up like a miracle, it doesn't happen, people. You know, it might happen. In rare instances I've known it to happen. I know of an asexual and they happen to meet their husband, they've been happily married or partner. I don't even know if their partners are male or female, so I'll retract that. So anyway, I know this person who found their asexual partner, and they've been married for years, and they happened to meet when they were young. I think they were like 17 or something. But that is a really a coincidence, you know. It's a really good, fortunate coincidence for them, and I'm so happy. You know, it's amazing for them. But that's not going to happen to the majority of us. You have to put yourself out there. You have to, you know, I'm very open and honest and tell people if I like people. You know, there was these 2 guys anyway. One was messaging me on ASAP, approached me, and the other guy who lives in the UK, I actually approached him. And but he then came onto Facebook and started messaging me. But you know, with either of those guys, I'm like, are they really that interested? But the guy who lived in the UK, first of all, he didn't seem that keen because we live quite miles apart. And then later on, as we were talking, we were just messaging more and more. He seemed like completely the opposite, like really keen on me. And that kind of freaks me out a little bit. But I really like it at the same time. It's like, oh man, it's like full on, and then like, oh yeah, okay. And then it's like, you know, the word love cropped up very quickly. I'm like, okay. not used to that. Well, I kind of am because I'm a hyper romantic, but you know what I'm like. But I'm kind of like not used to that word dropping in there and it being okay. So but it was nice that he dropped that word in there. I mean, at least I didn't drop that word in there. Do you know what I mean? It makes a change, doesn't it? So going back to this guy on ASAP, so I've got two guys that were messaging me last night. One on Facebook who I messaged first, who lives in the UK, and I saw on an asexual dating site. He's very, very good looking. Yeah, he's he could be a really good guy for me. He's my look. Apart from he has a beard sometimes. I don't like beards. It's like they're no good for kissing. You know how much I adore kissing, right? You know, beards are no good for kissing. It's like, please shave. But he shaves every 3 days. I mean, yeah, he's going to be stubbly by then. But yeah, anyway. He is very good looking though. He's beautiful. I do think that. So that's really nice. And he does live in the UK, even if it's miles away. And then the other guy, I asked him, I said, are you looking for someone in your country or are you looking to move? And he was like, well, I like it here, but I would move, right? But by the end of the conversation, I actually said to him, because we were talking, he got very intimate at the end with what type of thing he likes, like kissing and stuff. And he obviously felt that he was very compatible with me because he was very similar to me in what he likes in his physical needs. So lots of kissing with his clothes on. And he was older, he's 34, which is not the age I usually go for, but he looked like a boy next door type. He looked really young. And I said it's that recent picture. He said, yeah, but I wouldn't know without Skyping him how I felt about someone that age. The guy in UK is 24. He's much more my age. Do you know what I mean? You know, my birth certificate age is irrelevant. It's my mindset age and the way I live my life, you know. So 24 is much more my vibe, much more in tune with the age I actually believe I am, regardless of a piece of paper. And I get on, really well with that age group. Well, it's my age group as far as I'm concerned, even though birth certificate, it's just a load of rubbish. I just don't, who wears all night shirts like this all the time and stuff, and who lives like a teenager like I do in my birth certificate? Not many, but I do, and I love it, and I always will love it forever. So, yeah, so the guy abroad anyway, when I said, is he interested in moving? He said, well, yeah, I like my place, but I would be moving. He said that he'd been lonely, been on his own single for 4 years, and he really missed affection and kissing and cuddling and all that type of thing. So he seemed to like the sort of same physicality as me, but, it's getting very intimate towards the end of the conversation. But then I said to him, oh, yeah, it's a shame you don't live in the UK. Right, and then he said, oh yeah, it's such a shame. So I know just by saying that, without saying, well, really, you're not going to come to the UK anyway, are you? You're just not. And then by just asking him that question, saying that statement, that, well, shame you don't live here, he's then like saying, well, yeah, it's a shame. So I know for a fact that he's not coming over here just by saying that. You see, sometimes you can ask people, asexuals, on dating sites and in person, you can ask them questions more as statements to get answers that you really want. So if I asked him, oh, well, you will come over here, won't you? Because he liked me, he would probably lie and say, yeah, I can, or I'll think about it. But by saying to him, like, sort of putting the words in his mouth of, oh, well, it's a shame you're not over here, I'm telling the truth. But I'm also, when he replies back, yeah, it's a shame I'm not, it's a pity I'm not, he said, then you see what I mean. It's clarifying that he's definitely not coming over here. But to be honest, the other guy's already in the UK. I've already talked to him quite a bit. So it's kind of like, he's already in the UK, the other guy, and I approached the other guy and he's younger. So that's kind of really nice. But the other guy in the UK is not experienced in kissing. Do you see what I mean? But I'm a good teacher anyway in that respect. I love being able to teach kissing how I like to be kissed. So that could be quite interesting. But they were both asking me questions about myself, which was really nice. I think if someone's genuinely interested in you, then they will ask you questions about yourself. They'll take an interest. They won't just talk about themselves the whole time. They'll ask what you do and stuff like that. And it was interesting because a guy in the UK was asking about religion as well, which is quite a real sort of relationship thing for some people. Like, some people really get fixated on what religion the other person is because it's like core central to their being, as if they can be accepted in the long term. So that's quite a very long-term futuristic, I think, question. Because if you're not that bothered about someone, you don't really need to know what religion they are, do you? Not unless you're obsessed with religion yourself. You don't really need to know that at a stage when you've just started messaging. So I thought that was quite nice. The other guy though, in the other foreign guy in the other country, he was like really into everything. He was like, oh, I see you do a blog, thanks for everything you do for the asexual community, I'll read the blog. And then as I was talking to him, messaging him, he was reading bits of my blog. He goes, oh, I see you've had problems getting young asexual guys for a relationship. I share your pain. And then he was talking about that. So he was like reading stuff about me and then talking about it with me. And I thought it was really nice. It's like a step up from just being interested. It's like this huge like mountain, like, I really like you. I've taken the time and bother to learn about what you speak about and how you're helping other asexuals. And I really genuinely am interested. I mean, he said this thing earlier on in his comments, and seriously, sometimes my brain doesn't switch on. And he said, oh, I'm better now, thank you, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, when he first started talking to me. And I thought he meant he'd been ill, but he meant he was better now because he was talking to me. So he said, oh, hi, I love your profile. He goes, oh, and then he said, how are you? I said, I'm great, thank you. How are you? He said, oh, I'm better now, question, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And that was my cue to say, oh, thanks, that's really nice. But I said, I'm really sorry that you haven't been feeling well lately. And he goes, oh, I was fine, I was all right. And what he meant to say was, I'm much better for seeing you, but he didn't put it in those exact words. And my brain being my brain wasn't really thinking he really fancied me or liked me, so I wasn't really thinking he was thinking about saying something like, well, it's better now you're in my life, or you've turned up. Do you see what I mean? But as he's older, I mean, he is 34, he's older, he kind of knows what he wants more, which is a good thing. But like I say, I mean, he's not really going to come over here, is he? He runs his own business as well, so we have the entrepreneurship thing in common, so that was quite nice as well. But as his business is not really something I'd be used to, though. He's a truck driver, so it's not really something I'd be into personally. I'd rather be into like website building and stuff like that. So yeah, that was really interesting. But yeah, two really nice guys both seem really nice, both seem interested in me. So that was a good experience, I guess. Yeah, for once I had two foreign guys, one which is in the UK, actually interested in me. So that makes a change. I think it really sort of boosts your confidence and self-esteem more. Do you see what I mean? It's really good. And it's nice that the guy on ASAP approached me, because like I said, I mostly approach other guys. I have had a few on there approach me lately, but not like that. It's more like being hi, and I've said hi and they've said nothing back. This guy wasn't like that. He was waiting for me to talk to him and having a proper conversation and flowing. And I think that's the thing, if you're dating as well, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'm not really used to asexual dating, you have to have a flowing conversation with someone. If you can't have a flowing conversation with someone, there's no point in even thinking about dating them, is there? Because you need to be flowing with them. And if you're not flowing with them already, then you need to take the steps and the action to start a conversation and start seeing if you can flow with them. If you can't flow and they're not in your flow and they're not in your vibe, then they're obviously not right for you in the first place. The thing that I find, I don't know if you find it, is I do get relationship anxiety and potential relationship anxiety. So I'd love to know in the comments where you've ever had this before, whereas basically I would love a romantic relationship, but when I actually think about being in one, it scares the life out of me and I just want to run a mile. So because the guy in the UK did, by the end of the conversation, seem really keen on me, my romantic side really loves that. It's like, wow, this guy's really keen on me. But my past experience tells me that when someone's really keen that quickly, it usually goes wrong. So that's kind of why I'm like, that's not good. And I feel anxious about it then. Do you see what I mean? I'm like, just it's good to have like space. And I kind of like, my romantic side wanted him to message me first thing this morning, because he said, oh, I could spend like the whole night, like the whole morning talking to you. That's what he basically meant in his message, because he's foreign, his language isn't 100% perfect at the moment because he's learning English. He's been in the UK for 2 years, so, and he's staying in this country. So basically, yeah, it was kind of like, he, like, at the beginning it was like, oh, well, we live miles apart, I've got college, I've got work all the time, it's not going to be possible to see you. Right? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then he went from that to really talking to me, really liking me, saying, oh, I don't think I'll be single for very much longer type thing. I don't think I'll be lonely anymore. And I'm like, what? You've just gone from one thing to the other, one extreme to the other. That's like something I would probably do. But I'm a bit more sensible lately than I used to be, And it's kind of like, wow. I mean, I really like it, as in the sense I like he's very attracted to me. which is great because I'm super attracted aesthetically to him. And, you know, something might come of it, but we are miles apart, so he would have to come down here, really. I couldn't really go up there. But already he was starting to talk about me staying over. I'm like, I don't know you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, whenever a guy says that, even if they're asexual, which I questioned him quite a lot about whether he was really asexual or not, I kind of like, it's a bit of a flaggy for me. It's like, oh, you don't know me. I don't know you. Why would I come in your home when I don't know you? I really don't know you. But he did start saying, well, that's further down the line when we get to know each other. But still, it's a little bit of a flag for me. It's like, I don't know you. Why would I stay in your home when you're a complete stranger to me? I wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I told him that anyway. I said, there's no way I'd be in your home until I got to know you better. But there was another guy who said that to me. And this other guy wasn't a good guy. And he said he was asexual. And I'm not even sure whether he was or not. But he was not a good guy. I found out he was still married to this particular person. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm just gonna like see what happens with the two guys. One of them I probably won't hear from again. That's in the other country, although I don't know. And the one in the UK, I'm gonna see what happens. You know, because I do think he looks good. In both, he wears hoodies and a suit, and they're like two clothes attraction things. A guy who wears like street gear, like hoodies, and who wears suits. I like both of those. I have clothes attraction for both those types of clothes, so he wears both of them, so that's really nice. Yeah, so anyway, I'll see how it goes. So I think I'm going to wrap up now because I've been talking for a heck of a long time, and I thought it was really interesting to find out how people, different people found out they're asexual. So shall we read one more? I think we should have one more, actually. This is Samantha G's story. Samantha G first found out she was asexual at 18 years old. 18! That's quite young, but not as young as some of the others. I always knew asexuality as a sexual orientation existed, but I never knew what it actually was until one day I got curious as to what asexuality is and I Googled it. Needless to say, I was shocked that it actually fitted me. And I think that's one of the main points of asexuality is when you find out that you're asexual and you accept it about yourself, then you find this community of people and it's like, wow, there are others like me. This is incredible. You finally feel that you fit in somewhere, whereas a lot of the life that you've previously led has just meant that it's confusion, misunderstanding. I mean, I know now that I would have never been happy in the relationships in my past. But I think there needs to be education about asexualities in school, they really does. Because people need to know from a young age. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I was on the Quayside doing my YouTube live yesterday. And after that, I did a Facebook live as well. But in between that, I had these two teenage girls overhear me doing my YouTube live show. And this girl said to me, hi, do you do a YouTube show? I said, yeah, I do. And she's like, what's it about? And I told her about asexuality. And it was so wonderful because these two teenage girls, they were so sort of happy to hear what I had to say in the sense that they were relieved to find that they could have a relationship without sex because they said that they were fed up with like all their friends. All they talked about is how far they've got sexual wise with their boyfriends and stuff like that. And they weren't interested in talking about that like that. They put this girl preferred a person's personality and it seemed that our other friend was like her. So you never know. I mean, they may be asexual. They may just not be like the rest of the masses and just really need to take their time over it. But they were really happy that they spoke to me, that they knew asexuality is real. It's an orientation, sexual orientation, which is the lack of sexual attraction. And it's okay to have love without sex. And I'm so happy that I met those two asexual teenage girls, because I know now in their life, they know that they can get someone to love with them without sex. And they know this as a teenager. Just imagine if me, you, or anyone that's watching this right now found out that as a teenager, you can have love without sex. Wouldn't that completely change your course of life? I tell you what, it would have changed mine. If I knew I could get love without sex, if I knew I didn't have to have sex in a relationship, I would have probably not been with all the bad guys I was with. The majority of them. I'm not saying I wouldn't be with any bad guys, but I probably wouldn't, because I would have looked for an asexual person. Do you know what I mean? I would have found that there's more like me. I would have done whatever it takes to find others like me. Do you see what I mean? And I didn't know it was a thing. And I just to speak to those two girls, just think, if one of them's asexual, I'll have saved them all that heartache and all that pain from being in those relationships that are very toxic for them because they don't want sex and need it or like it or have to have it, and the other person does. You know, this girl, when she said, well, you know, my friends are all talking about who they're getting off with or who they're doing sexual stuff with, whereas I'm not into that. I'm just looking for someone who's got a nice personality. I love thinking about this butterfly effect sort of stuff. It's amazing, the possibilities that could occur. Yeah, exactly, Martin. It's like sliding doors. I don't know if you've seen Sliding Doors, the film Sliding Doors. It's like when you have two possibilities of a reality. So the film Sliding Doors, it shows two different ways this woman's life can go with I think it's two different relationships with two different people actually. And she comes out of the lift and I think she goes to be in a relationship with one and not the other, and vice versa. And it's how her life can be different. So I really think it's important as well. And I also think it's important to know that it doesn't matter, that you can still change your life right now. You know, whatever's gone before, we can't change the past, can we? We can't take it back and say, well, I wished when I was at school that I knew more asexual people or knew I was asexual. We can't live in the past. All we can do is live for now and find a good, you know, if we want a relationship, we have to find the right life partner for us. Someone we get on with, someone who we feel comfortable around, someone we can talk to about anything and everything, someone we trust, someone who's honest, someone who's responsible, someone who cares about us, someone who wants to listen to us and talk to us and find out stuff about us. You know, these are the foundations for a really good asexual relationship, and have things in common as well, hobbies and interests and things like that, or be willing to share your hobbies and interests with each other, even if you're not so into them yourself, because you love just sharing and being around each other. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, it's really important. I'm going to read another story because I think this is really important to find out how people discover they're asexual. So this is Anne's story. It was a fairly recent discovery about 6 months ago. I had been familiar with the term before, but had always rejected it out of hand because I had crushes on other people before. And how did Anne find out she was asexual? I had gotten out of a relationship that was unhealthy and controlling, maybe even emotionally abusive in some respects. While I previously acknowledged that when I started dating, I would be required to do sexual acts with my partner at some point, I ended up with someone who had certain expectations to be met. He asked and pushed for far more than I wanted to give, and I eventually gave in because I grew tired of fighting over it. A couple of months after the relationship ended, I was reading an author blog about tropes in romantic fiction, when one of the commentators mentioned the common trope of the heroine of the story not being sexually attracted to anyone but the hero. This was how I learnt of the term demisexual. And they identify as a pan-romantic demisexual. So that's really interesting, you see. You know, that is coming from a demisexual. Now, some people believe that, you know, like grey asexuals, demisexuals, they're not really asexual, and in the sense that they're not purely attracted, in the sense that they're not attracted to anyone sexually. They, you know, demisexuals, for example, do experience sexual attraction when a strong emotional bond has been formed. You know, when you read that, you realise just how difficult it still is for demisexuals, because like this person says, their partner expected things of them, and I as an asexual relate to that. You know, they expected far more than Anne wanted to give, but you know, they gave in because it was pressure from their partner. And I think, you know, we can all relate to that. We may not be demisexual, we may be sex repulsed or whatever, but this person's demisexual, but they still can't just have sex just like that. And I think people misunderstand demisexuals, but I also think, you know, obviously some people come in the asexual sphere and they just pretend they're asexual and they're not, and they just pick up on things and they're not really asexual. But I think a demisexual, a genuine demisexual, has to have that really strong, deep emotional bond, and it be reciprocated equally and feel comfortable in the relationship before they can do anything sexual. And then they, in in that sense, they're asexual until that strong emotional bond's been formed. It could be years or very, very rarely at all. You see what I mean? So it's kind of like, but I do agree that, you know, it's important to note that asexuals lack sexual attraction. And in general, we don't want sex. It's no good sort of focusing on the more sexual end of the spectrum, because that's not fair to all the asexuals that genuinely don't want sex and never have done, never will do, never get the urge for it, because they do lack the sexual attraction. Pure asexuals, period. Do you see what I mean? But I think it's very good to have different types and learn about different types of asexuals. And like, this is a demisexual story about how hard it is for that person to have sex when they clearly don't want to do those sexual acts. They didn't feel that way. They felt just like I would have done in their situation. So, you know, we're all valid all across the spectrum. What I don't like is when people come in and they pretend they're asexual when they're not. I don't like those type of people. They're not really asexual. They just want to come in our, you know, some of them will do on any dating site whatsoever, for example, just because they're that desperate to be in a relationship, you know. And asexuals may be desperate to be in a relationship to a certain extent, but we do still have our limits, some of us, and our boundaries, you know. We do still care enough about ourselves. And, you know, I don't tend to go on heterosexual dating sites. I haven't been on them for years. 2014 was the last time I was on a heterosexual, 2014? No, 2012, sorry, was the last time I was on a heterosexual dating site. It was eHarmony. And back then, I put on there, in the end, because I was talking to people private message, like, guys, and he goes, there's this one young guy not living too far away. Exactly. It's not wrong to be a heterosexual, but it's wrong to lie about it. Exactly, Martin. It's not wrong to be heterosexual, but it is wrong to lie about it. Precisely. And I do not like these heterosexuals that come into our asexual dating sites and groups, and, you know, they pretend they're asexual. They don't say they're sexual, you know, and they just go along with pretending they're asexual. It's disgusting. They've got enough pool of people in the world to date and be with. They don't need to come in our asexual dating sites and in our asexual groups, particularly when they want sex. It's not like they're coming in saying, wow, you're asexual, I really don't want sex anymore, I hate sex, I'd rather be with you even though I'm heterosexual. They're coming in and still, you know, with their sexual mentality that I'm going to have sex with someone and I'm going to find someone in this group or date whoever I want and have sex with them. Do you see what I mean? It's intrusive. It's not nice, and I don't like it whatsoever. It's just horrible. I just wish they'd go and sort their life out elsewhere where they've got tons of, you know, there's tons of groups. Wrong to lie about it to get asexuals like it. Like, I'd lie about being asexual, but only to protect myself, since there are people. You see, I wouldn't lie about being asexual. I know you're saying you'd lie about being asexual to protect yourself, but that's not protecting yourself, really, is it? It's hiding who you truly are. So I know that's not how you feel, Martin. I know you feel that you have to protect yourself, but who are you protecting yourself from? Why should your parents even give a care about whether you're asexual or not? What does it matter to them? They're not in your life. They're not the ones who got a date. So really, it shouldn't matter to you what your parents think. It shouldn't matter to you. They should still love you for who you are. You know, there's no protection. Is it protection, or is it just a safety net for you? You know, it's not protecting you. It's sometimes when people talk about being secret about their asexuality, it's not necessarily protecting them. It's keeping them caged up. It's not setting them free for who they really are. Do you see what I mean? It's not. It's just keeping you caged. You know, be free to be who you are. There's no shame in being asexual. It's a sexual orientation, after all. Everyone's got a sexual orientation, usually. There's probably some orientation that's got no sexual orientation whatsoever. Some people may say asexuality, which is lack of sexual attraction, is kind of not an orientation, as in the sense we don't get attracted to anyone, but it's still a sexual orientation, right? Because the orientation is we don't get attracted to anyone. So, yeah, it gets a bit complicated. But yeah, I mean, who are you protecting? You're keeping yourself in your bubble to try and feel safe, but you're not really being truly who you're born to be. You're asexual. Be proud to be asexual. What does it matter if your mum knows she's not dating you? Like, that's what I mean. You know what I mean? My parents don't date me. They're my parents. What does it matter what relationship I have with other people? It shouldn't do. Shouldn't matter a jot to them. It's my life, just like it's your life. You know, once has been biphobic and transphobic, though, I have no idea how good or bad the other could be, and I have no idea what they would do or how they would respond. I know, I understand. You're scared, I guess, because you live at home, right? So, I mean, it is up to you at the end of the day if you don't feel comfortable coming out, but I just personally think, I mean, if you move out of home, then you can definitely say something, because there's no comeback then, is there? So if you still live with your parents, I understand it can be really hard, especially if they're not open-minded, but you might be surprised that they might be really open-minded. And even if they're not, they still got to accept it about you. Anyway, my battery's going really, really low now. I don't think I've got this. I don't think I've plugged it in now, because I haven't. I've been doing some recording today of other videos for other channels. So I'm going to go and sign off now. But yeah. Oh yeah. If I moved out, it'd be fine. I'd be a safe distance away. Yeah. So, well, yeah. So you'll come out when you move home. Yeah, because you'll feel safe then. I do get that. I do understand. I know that some people, especially in other countries, they can be physically hurt if they come out as asexual. I don't think it's like that in the UK, but maybe there's someone from the UK who's come out and had that experience. If so, comment below. Really just go for gold. If you want to talk about any of the topics today's video, if you want to discuss them, please comment down below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Please share and subscribe. I know there's been 2 people watching this whole show tonight. One of them's Martin. I don't know who the other one is, but thank you for watching. I love you to bits. It's incredible. Thank you for your support. Without your support, I would not be doing this channel. Thanks for the live stream. You're welcome, Martin. And without you, I wouldn't be doing this channel. This channel is for you. If you didn't still like the videos, if you didn't still want me to do it, I wouldn't be here. So all I can do is thank you so much. And I will continue to spread the word of asexuality whenever I can, wherever I can. Tonight, I launched my Facebook page for my asexualizeacademy.com site, which is the world's first online training centre and school for asexuals and asexuality. I'm going big with this. I really want the world to know, and I want to do professional training courses for asexuals in various aspects of asexuality. Yes, you can pick little bits up off the internet. You can pick loads up in forums. But who wants to go around trawling through them for hours all the time? Sometimes you just need personal one-to-one video training, don't you? And the core fundamentals of asexuality and different parts of asexuality and different problems that we come up against with asexuals. You want some like one-to-one personal, deep, in-depth training, which is what I'm going to provide with that school and training centre. But the first course is absolutely free, the basics of asexuality. So it's Asexuality Basics for Beginners, an introduction to asexuality, but it does go through the fundamentals of asexuality and the asexual spectrum and the aromantic spectrum. So although it's a basics course, it's quite in-depth. It's 9-part video series. It took me 4 days to create, and I hope you love it and enjoy it. So if you want to get that, just go watching. Take care. Bye.